That's going to do it for us here at Fox 32 News at noon. The news continues on Chicago Live on Fox Local. Have a great day.
Next stop, Sherry.
I will be with you through 4 p.m. Let's talk a little bit about what we have lined up for you in this first hour together. We always appreciate having you here. Valentine's, of course, is almost here, and some folks are in the mood for love, but others maybe who haven't been so lucky in love are going to have maybe stronger emotions, stronger feelings of loneliness even this weekend. So we have a clinical psychologist who is going to be here from Loyola talking about navigating mental health challenges tied to relationships and seasonal expectations. You know, there are a lot of seasonal expectations for Valentine's, a lot of seasonal expectations that come with almost any holiday as well. So we're going to talk about what goes along with that and maybe how we can protect ourselves if we start to feel a certain type of way. It should be a good discussion, so I'm looking forward to that. Whether people voice how they're feeling or not, I think they'll be able to take something from it, quite a few people. Also, a professor of operations research and public policy from Carnegie Mellon University is going to be here. So this professor says it is time for America to admit it has a marijuana problem. And he has just done an op-ed that's gone viral. He's going to be talking about the facts and figures that went into that very bold statement. Of course, it's coming at a time when legalization of marijuana is such a hot topic. So we'll dig into that a little bit more. And then the new jobs report is out. And some economists say it's surprisingly strong, pretty good, very positive. We'll explore the new stats and what they think maybe might be behind the positive shift that we're seeing. But first, we start with a topic that has really just captured the nation over more than a week now, with major developments just in the last 24 hours. You probably already know where I'm going with this. Irene Snyder is back with us with the latest in the search for Today's Show host Savannah Guthrie's mother, Nancy. I stayed up probably, Irene, until 11 p.m. as new information was coming out last night. Tell us where we are today.
Yeah, Anita, well, some of the developments over the last 24 hours are really interesting. So I was this morning not in Tucson like I have been for the past week. I was in Rio Rico, just driving home now from my story there. So that, for some perspective, for those of you who might be from, obviously the Chicago area and not familiar with Arizona, it's about an hour south of Tucson, just about 10 miles from the Mexico border. So what happened yesterday is they detained a man named Carlos during a traffic stop, and they ended up taking him in, detaining him again. So that happened over the course of last night, but then they released him within a matter of hours. And we did get an interview with him last night. And a lot of it for him was confusion, wondering why he was being detained. At least that's what he expressed to one of our Fox reporters who was out there last night. And his mother-in-law spoke too, saying she didn't understand why he was being detained. He mentioned something along the lines of his eyes, and saying that when the sheriff, the FBI pulled him over, they were saying that something about his eyes looked familiar in comparison to that surveillance video. Now, that's not from the FBI or the sheriff's office. That was all coming from the man Carlos, who was detained. So that's some of the new information over the past 24 hours. We, of course, since I last spoke with you yesterday, had that surveillance video that was released as well. And we're not sure if him being detained had anything to do with that surveillance video at all, if it was a lead that came before that. But again, the man who was detained, Carlos, told our Fox reporter last night that they did mention something about his eyes there looking familiar. So that was from him. We went back out to the house again this morning. We were there all morning live on our Fox 10 newscast out here in Arizona. And he did not want to go back on camera with any of the media outlets there today, since he said he already spoke to them last night. None of the neighbors really had much to say, but really my impression from the family when I spoke with them off camera today was really just a lot of confusion. And then we also have TMZ, I think it was, that was reporting they got a note saying that someone knew the name of the suspect and they would release that name to the sheriff's department, but for Bitcoin. And that Bitcoin, I believe, is worth over $60,000 that they're asking for, which is just, when you think about it, the reward from the sheriff's department is $50,000. So some people are wondering, why don't they just go to the sheriff's department and get $50,000 versus asking for a little over $60,000? So really a lot of questions, a lot of things we're hoping to get more answers to, but those are some of the updates over the last day, Anita.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, I felt like things started to move pretty rapidly after the video came out. Of course, it took 10 days for us to finally even get that video. So there was the process of them even trying to access the footage because that camera had been taken down.
So my impression is that they were not current with their subscription with that service. That was, I believe, a company of Google's for that Ring service or for that camera service. So because of that, the families now have access to that footage. But we had spoken to some other people, some of our other reporters have done deeper dives into how that works, talking to computer security people. And the thing is, a lot of that data doesn't fully go away, but it's not easily accessible. So what they were able to do is they were able to, go back, work with Google, work with these companies to get that footage. But it took quite a while because, as you mentioned, 10 days, that was a long time, but they were able to recover that footage that hopefully will lead to some kind of breakthrough in this case.
Yeah, I mean, there was so much that you could glean from it, and then at the same time it left so much still in terms of questions that we have about who that person is. But let me also ask you this. So last night, the SWAT teams were activated. There was some type of elite team from the FBI that was moving in on that house, but did they take anything out of it?
So what we were told from the mother-in-law of Carlos was that she allowed them readily to search her home. I don't know if they took anything out of it. She didn't say that. So they searched her home and they released him. So does that mean that he is clear or no longer a person of interest? We don't know. They haven't released information saying if or not he's still a person of interest. But again, they did detain him yesterday during that traffic stop. And he was not really willing to speak with reporters this morning, but he spoke very readily with all the outlets that were there last night.
Yeah, and I was totally perplexed even by the fact that the sheriff's office said there was a person of interest last night, and the FBI said persons of interest. Even that kind of small differentiation had me very confused.
Well, here's the thing. We haven't been able to speak and ask questions of the sheriff's department in a matter of days because the last press conference was on Thursday. I went to one on Tuesday, and then there was another press conference on Tuesday. And since then, they said they're not going to be releasing, or at least not going to have another press briefing until they have more solid information. So that's something that really, it'd be great to be able to ask the sheriff's department and the FBI, but at this point, we're not in the position to be able to ask them in person some of those questions. But again, I think we talked yesterday, sometimes investigators are tight-lipped about these things because releasing certain information could be detrimental if the suspect or anyone involved finds out that they know certain information. So really, as journalists, we're trying to get the information that we can, but at the same time, there's only so much we can get and that we can ask of investigators. So a lot of unknowns at this point.
A lot of unknowns, and this is just prolonging the agony, of course, for the Guthrie family, which is the biggest part of this as the investigation plays out. Have we heard any more from the family?
So Savannah had posted that latest video, but nothing since then as far as any release. They had posted a few videos we talked about. There was, one from the family that they did together last week. They released another one. The brother of Savannah Guthrie and the son of Nancy released a video. Those were 3. Savannah since then released another one that was just her on camera and just pleading for some help. And then aside from that, they did post some of that camera footage online. Savannah posted, asking for more prayers, asking for anyone who has any information to, contact the sheriff's department and the FBI, but no more on-camera videos today from the family.
This is just, it's one of those situations that I think has everyone what is this going to be ultimately? I mean, we hope that Nancy is still, and I think that was one of the things that Savannah posted. I mean, they want to keep that hope alive, that she's still alive somewhere. But this time that's going by is just so troubling in so many ways.
Yeah, I know. And, it's heartbreaking for neighbors too. So I was out in Rio Rico today, and those people don't know the Guthrie family personally, but when I was in Tucson yesterday and last week, they're just heartbroken for the family, putting out flowers. They've had messages for the family. So I've not spoken with the Guthrie family personally, but you can, just by watching those videos, just see, the heartbreak, and hear the heartbreak in their voice. So it's been sad to cover this, but at the same time, trying to get as much information as possible and just hoping and praying for a good outcome for the family.
Yeah. And again, I just want to emphasize, you're saying there has been no update from the sheriff or the FBI in terms of another press conference at all for today?
Not today, no. At least not in the last, 20 minutes since I left the station. But we do have other reporters that are there on scene throughout the day. So if anything else comes up, they will be there to take some coverage live too and provide updates.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we certainly appreciate being able to continue to call on you. You're doing a wonderful job covering this, and I know it is a very tough story. But I think once you've been on a story like this, we all benefit from being able to talk to you, seeing it all the way through. So thank you for your time again.
Thank you for your time, Anita.
Certainly appreciate it. I mean, goodness grief. It really seemed like yesterday there was a huge break in the case. I mean, finally being able to get access to that video and being able to put that out there. There's been so much of this, even in terms of like the letters that have gone to different stations, TMZ, asking for different things, these deadlines that have come up and gone by, but never knowing whether any of those had been validated. But that Nest camera video was legit. So we finally had something that was legit. And then the rest of the evening, it was like, okay, things are starting to happen. And you get here the next day and you're like, well, wait a minute. Doesn't sound like anything else legit happened after that video came out. But none of us know what the authorities have either on their side that maybe they aren't releasing, as Irene said. So we continue to wait, we continue to hope, continue to pray that Miss Guthrie is okay and that their family will be all right. All right, it's 1:12 right now, and let's get in a quick break, 2 minutes. I want to bring you in, and we're going to show you a couple of things that are happening out there. I hear there is one major celebration that's going on the West Coast. You probably know what that is. And then also a big committee hearing that's happening on the East Coast. So we'll kind of pop in on those. Give us 2 minutes, though. All right, everyone. It's about 1:15 right now. Let's take a look at a couple of live events that we are monitoring right now. Let's go to the West Coast first. And you can see here the celebration is getting set up right now for the Seattle Seahawks, the Super Bowl champions. Some of our nation's finest are there already. You can see some of the veterans in uniform, and then you can see some of the players and their families that'll be coming through shortly here. Yep, getting those cigars out. They are a happy bunch right now, and so we will kind of be popping in on this as that celebration gets underway. But right now, just getting set up for their big day. They have earned it, and we're happy for them. There's the coach right there and his wife. All right, let's go on to the East Coast and things not so much in a celebratory tone here. This is Attorney General Pam Bondi. She is testifying before Senate Judiciary Committee today, and just moments ago, in fact, you can see right here, this is Chip Roy from Texas who is speaking to her right now, but moments ago it was Chuy Garcia from right here in Illinois who was grilling her. Again, this is about the Epstein files and the rollout of the files, how that's been handled. Of course, they were initially supposed to all come out by the end of last year, by the end of December. That was extended to January. We started to get some of them, but not all of them. And in the last batch, it was about 3 million, I believe, pages there. And so a lot of reading for people, except for the fact that there was a lot that was redacted. And there was a lot that was released that victims and victims advocates groups say should never have been released, in terms of names of young women who had been victimized years ago. But there was also so much that was redacted, so many pages that were fully in black. So they are really asking a lot of questions as to what should be done differently. Of course, remember, there are several lawmakers who were brought into rooms to see the unredacted. Okay, but what was fully released, there was quite a bit that was redacted. So those who have seen the unredacted files are saying there are some things within those that actually should have been released. There are some names of high-profile individuals that were redacted that should have been released. So they're still kind of pushing for more information to be released. And keep in mind, we still don't even have all of the documents that have been released. So kind of getting an update on that, sharing their thoughts on that. And of course, now we switch to another camera here, and you can see Melania Trump, and she, the First Lady, is there with a group of young people as they are getting ready for Valentine. So several different live events that are happening right now. But let's bring things back here at home at 1:18. There is a new jobs report that's out, and it is showing some good signs here. So Andy Challenger with Challenger Great and Christmas is here. We always appreciate having you all on the show to kind of break down the new numbers that are out. And these have some economists smiling today.
Yeah, it's the first good jobs report we've had in quite some time. It wasn't all good news, but at least the headline numbers showed we'd added 130,000 jobs to the economy in January, which is the biggest numbers since we've seen in early 2024. We've been on this slow cooling downward cycle in the labor market. And this report showed us that even worse, the last 2 years, they revised down a lot of the numbers that we've been looking at to show us that over the course of 2025, we actually only added 181,000 jobs in total to the economy, which is just above the amount that we would considered to be us in a recession. So this month, having 130,000 jobs added is quite the good sign.
Possibly headed in the right direction?
Possibly headed in the right direction, but I will say it is one piece of data. The vast majority of these jobs that were added in January were in healthcare, which is interesting. It was so concentrated in one industry, while at the same time, we actually lost quite a few jobs in finance and a couple other high-paying sectors where it starts to feed into this narrative of we're in slightly a white-collar job recession. We continue to see tech companies, finance companies, high-end business services companies letting people go and making job cut announcements. At the same time, we've seen overall the number of jobs in the U.S. has gone up.
I think all of us immediately think, is that AI?
It certainly is partially AI, and companies are talking about it. In January, we did see a big spike in companies announcing future job cuts and specifically tying it to artificial intelligence. We've been seeing that for the last few months in the technology sector. And what was concerning news for us is we've started to see that extend out of the tech sector. And with the Dow chemical company announced a big chunk of layoffs that they were directly attributing to artificial intelligence now being able to do some of the corporate office jobs that they had last year. So it is a worrying sign that some of that technology is coming online and is actually taking the place of jobs today.
So I'm hearing cautious optimism, maybe at best here. What would be something needed other than obviously these numbers just continuing to go up, but what would be something that we would need to see to say, oh no, this is substantive. We are actually on the rise here.
Yeah, the whole world is watching U.S. labor market right now because everybody wants to know what the Federal Reserve is going to do. Did they lower interest rates just the right amount and we're kind of hitting a nice soft landing and things are going to start to gradually go up from here? Or did they overcorrect, raised interests too high, too quickly, for too long? And we see the other side of a negative downward cycle in the economy and in the labor market. Nobody knows what's going to happen. We're at such a tipping point. And so everybody's looking at any numbers that come out of the labor market, but then how the Federal Reserve reacts to it. If they stay steady and don't further decrease interest rates, that's a good sign that they think things are on a good path. If they start to raise interest rates again, it would be a very worrying sign that they fear a recession is coming.
And when is their next meeting?
And next month. So we've got a little time to wait.
Mm-hmm. Now, would you think that, okay, if they're going to meet next month in March, and then, of course, in May, we have a change of who the Federal Reserve Chair is, do you think we could actually see some movement in that, maybe that small window beforehand? Or do you think they would be more in line with keeping things just at a pause until you get a new person in place?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think based on the report that we saw today, we saw a healthy gain in the labor market. It's probably a signal that they're going to stand pat and not further change interest rates in this coming period. Things can always change, and this is one piece of data. And there was some negative data under the headline jobs number that makes us worried about the health of the labor market. So can't say for sure, but it's all a possibility.
Mm-hmm, yeah. What were some of the other worrisome things to you?
Really, these revisions in the jobs data from the last 2 years. We saw this revision downwards from about 500,000 jobs added last year down to 180,000 jobs added last year. And it was even more dramatic in 2024 when they downgraded their estimates by about 500,000 jobs in total. So those are signs that the labor market actually has been worse for the last 2 years than we knew from a data standpoint. I think anecdotally, we've heard it. We've seen some real pessimism about the labor market. We've seen a lot of data and surveys from people that they haven't felt comfortable in the job market. And now the data is catching up to tell us that they were probably right.
Mm-hmm. And who did you say is hiring right now? Which I know we talked about those that are kind of slashing numbers, but who is hiring right now?
Yeah, in January, by far, the most jobs were added in healthcare and other social services. So hospital systems, medical device companies, as well as in-home health aides and social care workers. Those were the areas that really seemed to add quite a few jobs in January. And those are parts of the economy that we expect to regularly grow because of the changing demographics of the country as a whole. And so that is our expectation. And the fact that it's moving forward is a good sign, and still could be a good place to look for jobs in the future. It's an area of the economy that is expected to continue to add workers.
An aging population and the health system kind of adjusting to deal with that. Thank you so much, Andy. We always appreciate having you here, and especially when the numbers are at least a bit more optimistic. We'll see where things go from here.
Of course. Thanks for having me. It's nice to be able to come on and give a little good news once in a while.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah. Being able to talk to them gives you the fullness, because, of course, you might just hear like, oh, the jobs report is great. The numbers are great. Well, what numbers are great? As he said, there's some room for optimism here, but there's also some room for concern. So that just means that we need to stay locked in terms of getting a full picture when the numbers come out. So do appreciate being able to speak with him. It is 1:26 right now, though. Let's get in a quick break, 2 minutes, and we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. Just before 1:30, and our next guest just published an op-ed that says it is time for America to admit that it has a marijuana problem. Very bold statement here, so I want to go right in and bring in Jonathan Calkins. He is a professor of operations research and public policy for Carnegie Mellon University. Thank you so much for being here. I think you're on mute right now, and this is an important discussion, so I want to make sure we have the audio.
My pleasure, my error. Glad to be able to chat.
Tell me why you decided to publish this opinion piece.
Well, to be clear, it was actually the editorial board of the New York Times that published the piece, but they just used some numbers that I and my colleagues have produced. But we've been studying marijuana legalization since 2010. And we, in particular, have been aware that legalization would cut prices, which would increase use, and the conventional way of measuring use was inadequate. So we started tracking daily and near daily use as opposed to total users, because that captures changes in intensity of use, not just prevalence. And that's what they picked up at the New York Times.
Aha, okay. So as you're looking at things changing over time, what were you seeing?
Well, massive increases. So if you just look at the number of people who've used in the last year, that has gone up over the same time period that policy is liberalized. But as you go to more and more intensive measures of use in the last month went up by more. The total number of days of use went up even more. And the number of people reporting daily or near daily use has increased almost 20-fold since its nadir back in 1992. So that's why we say if you just count numbers of users, you miss a big part of the story, because a lot of the change has been increases in frequency and intensity of use, not just numbers of users.
Mm-hmm. And when we talk about frequency and intensity of use, and we're talking about marijuana overall, are we breaking that down by the different types of uses of marijuana?
We do that some. So when I'm just talking about frequency of use, it's of any form of intoxicating cannabis product. And so what we're really looking at is people who say they've used 25 or 30 times days in the last year. And then intensity of use is just sort of milligrams of THC per day. And that's just exploded. The stuff has gone from like 4% potency for the typical flower back in the 20th century to 25%, and also there are vapes and dabs. So milligrams of THC per day has also soared. And you are right, it is very much affected by changes in the product mix. It used to be, before policy changed, when you talked about marijuana use, it was almost all smoked. But now it gets consumed in all sorts of forms, of course, solid and liquid edibles, vapes, dabs, even odd things, tinctures, and so on.
Yeah, so many different things that are out there right now, and many that are legalized. If we're looking at 28 years ago and the fight for legalization versus where it is now, that would seem like, of course, you're seeing a rise in what you're seeing in terms of the usage.
You are smart, right? You're saying, of course, back when the policy was first being debated, a lot of people were in denial about how big a change it would be. One of my favorite phrases is people thought legalization would be same old, just without the arrests. And that's naive, because as you realize, when you legalize something, you change the whole structure, conduct, and performance of the industry in all sorts of ways that I could go into great detail on, but also it changes the way that it's perceived and used by the public. So if you go back into the 1990s, most people who used cannabis said they used it for fun or recreationally or socially, and only about 1 in 9 were using it daily or near daily, which is the same as alcohol then and now. But alcohol has remained something that only a minority of people use daily. But cannabis has really changed. Now over 40% of current users just have it as part of their daily regimen. It's no longer an occasional thing you use on occasion, like on weekend. It's just sort of part of daily life, like it is for cigarette smokers.
Yeah, and so when we say that we have a problem, that word will indicate that there's something wrong. Let's talk about that on a couple of fronts, because I'm sure there's a medical marijuana community out there that's like, it's not a problem, it's solving my problem.
Well, indeed, not only medical marijuana community, but there's a lot of non-medical users who say, I've got no problem with this. So there are pros and cons to every change. There are increased medical adverse consequences, but there's also increased freedom. I think it has surprised some people how much of the use is in this much more intensive pattern. I think people, like I said, I think thought that the use patterns weren't going to change that much. We were just going to get away from arrests and the loss of freedom. But use patterns, for better or worse, have changed very dramatically.
Yeah. And then, of course, I mean, we've spoken with doctors even right here on the show, again, going back to that word problem, who have talked about, like, I had never heard of scrometing before this year, before 2026. I learned what scrometing is and its connection to marijuana usage on the rise.
It's a fabulous example. So as I mentioned, we started really getting into analyzing the issue in 2010, and even we didn't see that one coming. In fact, we're the group of us who were sort of professional, serious analysts who got involved back then. We've gotten together and we've looked at our predictions and what we got right and what we got wrong. We predicted that prices would decline. We really didn't anticipate the scrometing. We didn't fully anticipate the proliferation of product forms. So once it gets going, it has an energy, and that is in part because there is now a for-profit industry that's out there trying to shape the directions and patterns of use. So absolutely, pros and cons. I don't want to be overly alarmist, but it's not for most people a healthy thing. I mean, cannabis smoke has every bit as many carcinogens per puff as cigarette smoke does. It's not a performance-enhancing drug for most people.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to consider here. What surprised you as you were doing this study?
Well, so we've been monitoring it for a long time, so we weren't per se surprised. So I guess in some respects, my biggest surprise is how somewhat shallow the analysis has been. People underappreciated the complexities that are unleashed when you do something like this. So take examples like you decide to legalize and figure out, are you going to allow use in parks where kids play? Are you going to allow landlords to be able to say, you cannot use in my building because I want to have it be a smoke-free building? You can't underestimate the difficulty of regulating it. So like a lot of states just say, our rules about mold and pesticide in the cannabis, we'll just pull it over from food. But that's naive, because food goes into your stomach. Your stomach is like a big bag of acid that can kill the bacteria and mold. But what you inhale, it goes into your lungs. Your lungs are much more vulnerable. So there's just a host of complexities out there. And I think people were a little naive about this being sort of a simple measure that wouldn't have downsides. There are downsides. There are also upsides. It's a mixed bag, as are most complicated policy questions.
Yeah, and of course the policy questions have been debated, as we've been saying, for decades now. Do you feel like, though, to your point a moment ago, that the genie's kind of out of the bottle at this point in time? There's no going back on certain things? Or are you hoping that the research that you all have done actually gets people to maybe pump the brakes a bit?
Sure. Well, if I were king for a day, I think the single biggest thing that I wish is that the supply were not in the hands of for-profit companies. I think for most consumer goods, for-profit companies are fabulous. They are innovative. They are creative. And that's terrific for most things. But cannabis is a problem for an important share of its consumers. Something like half of all cannabis used in the United States is used by people who have a substance use disorder. And it's not necessarily life-enhancing for them. So I personally would prefer if supply were entrusted to nonprofits, a little bit like blood distribution goes through the American Red Cross, not through a for-profit company, because this isn't a product. I would like to get rid of the illegal market. I don't necessarily want to push a lot more use. But that's just me, and I'm not going to be king for a day. Your overall question, I think, is a really good one. The horse is out of the barn, but only halfway, oddly. It's hard to imagine going back, but the momentum has stalled. I'm pretty sure that no one watching the first state passage in 2012 would have thought that 14 years later we'd still be stuck in this limbo with half the states legalizing, but it's still on the Controlled Substances Act at the federal level. That's a very awkward situation. Whatever else, at least Canada, which is legalized, did it in a unified federal and provinces working together way. We're in a very awkward intermediate situation right now.
Well, it's kind of the most American thing about it. You know.
well said.
You know. So yeah, I don't know that it's that surprising that we're that we're kind of divided as a country on it at this point in time. You know.
It's a very good point.
Yeah.
Very good point.
There's a lot to sift through for sure. What more are you hoping that people get from this op-ed, though? And what more research are you even going to be? Are you done with the research? Now this is out. Okay, we're good. We've put this out. Or where do you go from here with your research?
Well, at the personal level, I would suggest that people who are using cannabis pay attention to how much they are using and to realize there's a very big difference between just a couple times a week and a couple times a day every day. Personally, I have been fascinated with all sorts of illegal markets, so I also pay attention to opioid markets and wildlife trafficking. And so I'm interested in the continued existence of an illegal market alongside the legal market, the interplay between those, and in particular, how the closing of this Farm Bill loophole, assuming it does get closed in November, how that is going to affect things. Because there's been kind of three parallel markets: purely illegal market, there's the state license market, and then there's this odd intoxicating hemp market that's exploited the Farm Bill loophole. And those are all in dynamic tension. So I continue to be fascinated by it.
Yeah, that's another aspect of what takes so long is, we're looking at quite a few huge factors that weigh in on all of this. The justice system as a whole. Okay, what do you do? Once you've legalized it, what do you do with people who've been incarcerated because of it? Okay, there's the for-profit market. Okay, well, once taxes and revenue can start coming into a city or a state because of it, do you roll that back after they start to benefit from it in that type of way? And then, like you said, even from the farm industry, well, what do you do there? There's so much to this.
There is a lot. I'll jump in if I could with just one. I would absolutely support automatic expungement of past convictions for simple possession, particularly in states that have legalized, but honestly, other places too. It is true that over the years, literally millions of people have acquired a criminal record, and that can sometimes continue to interfere with their ability to get jobs and carry on life. And we can forgive that. I think even people who don't want to see a for-profit industry can forgive people who in the past have been arrested for simple possession and say, let's let them get on with their lives. So that I can get behind.
Well, again, that's one piece of a very complicated puzzle. So who knows? I mean, we might be 14 more years down the road, and we'll have to call you back on to whatever format we're working on in 14 more years. I'm sure that will have adjusted in 14 years. I don't know if this discussion will be over by then, though.
Well, I would look forward to being able to do this again, maybe even sooner than 14 years.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much for your time today. All right,
Thank you for your interest. Have a great day.
Same to you. Same to you. It's about 1:45. Let's take a quick break. 2 minutes, and we're back after this. 1:45, and Mayor Brandon Johnson is at the City Club right now taking some questions from people in the audience. So let's listen in.
Last time we were here, you predicted or said we want to be under 500 homicides. 2026, we were close to 400 last year. Do you believe we'll be under 400? Is there a number you're putting on it this time?
Well, look, here's the number that I'm most interested in right now, is making the necessary investments that lead to violence reduction. Here's the case that we've made. It's because, as you know, one homicide, one shooting is one too many. And those statistics don't provide comfort for those families who do suffer because of violence or as a result of violence. That's why I've called repeatedly for a millionaire's tax, a digital ad tax. The interests of corporations are being protected by the Trump administration. And the best way to ensure that we create safe communities is by investing in them. So, I'm calling on, all of our partners at every single level of government to ensure that we do everything in our power to not balance the budget off the backs of working people, and that at a time in which massive cuts are coming from the federal level, it's imperative that we all fight collectively to ensure that the rich and these big corporations pay their fair share in taxes.
Mayor, when will you make a decision about reelection?
Yeah, honestly,
It's a distraction.
yeah, no, because it is, right? You think about, there's an election that's happening right now that we have to ensure that it actually takes place. We have midterms in November. Like, my focus has been on ensuring that we protect the fundamental right to our power, which is through elections. And, I'm going to make that decision when the time is right for me and my family. I have, a lovely wife of 27 years who has been by my side every step of the way. I have, 3 beautiful children that I'm raising. One is about to go off to college. And to be perfectly honest with you, that between, working to drive violence down in the city of Chicago and to ensure that we get progressive revenue, and as I embrace this idea that my oldest is going to be out of the house in a few months, I have enough to think about, and there are many families that are thinking about very similar things. Are they going to have enough? And I think as long as we focus our attention on ensuring that families have enough, the politics will take care of themselves.
All right, that was the tail end of a Q&A session there again at the City Club with Mayor Brandon Johnson, who spoke earlier. So he was talking about violence reduction in the city and his efforts there, talking about the things that he's trying to do to invest in safe communities. But then also he was asked a question about why he still has not confirmed whether he will or will not run for re-election. It is a big topic. Obviously, the more time that goes by, there's more interest where that where that stands, as more people start to kind of either formally or even informally put their hat in the ring, kind of test the waters and see, do some research and see if it would work for them. And we have started to hear some big names say, "Yeah, I'm in." He's still not saying whether he's actually going to run for re-election. He has continued to really put the emphasis on what's going on with his family, and he says that in the midst of, yes, what he's doing to try to reduce violence in the city of Chicago and all of the things that come with running a city of this size, just from a family perspective, he has one of 3 children that's getting ready to go off to college. And so if any of us have been in that position, there's a whole lot that goes on with that too. So there's still that question as to whether he is going to run for re-election or not. And he's still not giving us a full-throated answer there. So we shall see. We will continue to wait. And again, others are already saying, yes, they are going to put their hat in the ring. We'll see where that race shapes up. Only time will tell. And I think that was kind of the final point that he made there. Listen, as we have been speaking, we did get in word of a death in the Hollywood community. And so we want to go ahead and bring in our very own entertainment anchor, Jake Hamilton, to give us the details on this. Jake?
Yeah, Anita, this is all just coming through. So obviously this isn't going to be the most polished report, but TMZ just breaking around the same time that James Vanderbeek's wife posted on Instagram that the Dawson's Creek star, the Varsity Blues star, has passed away. His wife wrote in a shared Instagram post, "Our beloved James David Vanderbeek passed away peacefully this morning. He met his final days with courage, faith, and grace. There is much to share regarding his wishes, love for humanity, and the sacredness of time. Those days will come. For now, we ask for peaceful privacy as we grieve our loving husband, father, son, brother, and friend. Obviously, we've been reporting for a while that James Vanderbeek revealed back in 2024 that he was battling stage 3 colorectal cancer, but he said at that time that he was feeling optimistic, despite the fact that acknowledging that this was a very difficult diagnosis. But the thing was, he really did try to do the most with this diagnosis. He tried to bring in as much awareness and as much financial help to other people as he could. He took part in a Fox show called The Real Full Monty, which brought celebrities in who were either indirectly or directly had lives impacted by cancer, and that brought in a lot of awareness for prostate, testicular, and colorectal cancer, for funding, for testing and research. And he also got to a point where he was doing selling merchandise. Anita, I'm going to be honest with you. He was told fans, hey, I want to raise money for this. I want to raise awareness, raise funds. He was actually signing jerseys from the character he played in Varsity Blues and selling them for charity. I'm going to be honest with you. I bought one. I have one of the James Vanderbeek signed jerseys from Varsity Blues that helped raise money for cancer, because I just thought it was a really great cause, and I loved him and I loved the movie. He was an actor that meant a lot to a lot of us of a certain generation. If you are of a certain age, Anita, I think you and I are around there. That theme from Dawson's Creek will forever be in our head. A lot of us remember seeing Varsity Blues, that quintessential 1999 MTV football movie in theaters. But you know what? He did a lot of work raising awareness. He also was the kind of actor who oftentimes had a really good sense of humor about himself. He would appear in a lot of movies playing sort of jerk versions of himself, which I always found to be funny. He was actually supposed to join his Dawson's Creek co-stars for kind of a cast reunion, raising money in September. But unfortunately, he ended up having to drop out for health reasons. He did send a video to fans to be shown at that event. And, people did comment at that time that he was not looking great in that video, but he'd come out and said, listen, I'm still battling this. I'm feeling good. Right now, they're not releasing a cause of death, but this was a cancer battle that he had been fighting for a little over a year now. And like I said, his wife is just asking for privacy, and that apparently that he had some wishes that he was presumably to share with all of us, but that would come in time. But James Vanderbeek, he was only, I believe, 48 years old. Recently, just the news just broke just minutes ago. So I appreciate you guys giving me the chance to chat a little bit about his legacy, because I think you and I both grew up sort of watching his work.
The interesting thing about it is there's just been so much more conversation about younger people being diagnosed with colorectal cancer. I believe that's the same cancer that Chadwick Boseman had, if I'm correct. Yeah. The younger people, and in fact, we had a doctor on just a few days ago talking about the fact that the age for getting your first colonoscopy would be 45. I just got mine, and yet we're starting to see people who are diagnosed well before that now. So that maybe that those guidelines actually need to change. It would be different if you maybe have a history of it, don't know, whether he had a history of it in his family or anything. But when we continue to see these big names, these people that have become so ingrained in society, you wonder, maybe the age does need to change for people to get these screenings.
And that's exactly right. And, I remember watching, and we did some interviews for the Full Monty because it was on Fox, and kind of the vibe out of that show that everyone seemed to be driving home is it can happen to you. And to your point, Anita, don't pigeonhole yourself into thinking that it's only this group over here, or I don't have a predisposition for it, or, I am not within the age group that it normally falls. I think a lot of them were saying, listen, it can happen to the star of your favorite TV show, or it can happen to your neighbor, or it can happen to a family member, or it can happen to you. And I think, that is if there is no silver lining to a situation like this, but if something like this potentially does inspire someone to pause and go, okay, I don't fall within those guidelines, but maybe I should still go get checked out. I mean, it does. A lot of these celebrities do tend to try to use their celebrity to really kind of humanize these cancers, because so many of us, I think, walk around thinking, okay, that's a thing that happens to other people. It doesn't happen to us. And I think these sort of moments kind of make you realize, no, they happen to everybody. And to your point, I don't even think we can really look at sort of categories of ages or this or that they happen to. I think we need to treat it as just a universal thing that happens to everybody.
Yeah. And then there's the other aspect of, I think whenever these moments happen, it drives home the point that we just never know the full totality of what people are going through. I mean, somebody who's had such a great career in a young life, and you just think like, oh, the world is your oyster, and yet at 48, his life is ended.
Well, I think you named the perfect example of that. I mean, someone like James Vanderbeek was very vocal and very open about the diagnosis and his fight there. But you mentioned Chadwick Boseman, who really kept that fight a little bit more private. Mm-hmm. And I remember, a lot of the conversation online leading up to, I don't know if you remember the night that the news broke of his passing. It was a shock to a lot of people because so many of us did not know that he was even undergoing this fight. And, there had been this conversation of people kind of criticizing his physical appearance on the internet. I think he had made some media appearances recently, and people were criticizing. And to your point, Anita, it's exactly right. You don't know what someone is going through. All those people who made comments about him and his appearance and his look had no idea that it's not an excuse, but had no idea that he was sort of battling that. And that's exactly right. I think we kind of, we saw those images of James Vanderbeek coming out of the Dawson's Creek reunion. And even then, we kind of thought, well, he's, it doesn't look great, but he says he's fighting on, and he says he's gonna beat this thing. And you know what? And then the world moves on, and we all have lives, and we kind of forget that there are things going on out there that don't revolve around us, and people are fighting their battles every day.
Yeah, literally, he was fighting for his life. Sad day, and I hate this for his family. Obviously, the fans will mourn, but the family really lost the most. So thank you so much for taking a moment to chat with us about James Vanderbeek.
Thank you, Anita.
All right, take care. It's 1:58, everybody. Give us just 2 minutes, and then I'll set you up for a 2 o'clock hour. All right, everybody, we're now in the 2 o'clock hour here on Chicago Live. Let me tell you a little bit about what we've lined up for you here. We're going to have an update on our weather outside. It has been wonderful thus far this week. Things really seem like they're going in the right direction. Can we trust it just yet? You know, it's like in the fall, we're kind of like, is this faux winter, faux fall, all of those things? Well, is it faux spring? Are we kind of working in that direction, or is there another cold snap on the way? We're going to talk a little bit about at least maybe how long we can soak up the sun and the warmth that's coming along with it finally after all of this time with one of our meteorologists who's going to come up shortly. Also, we're going to talk about a couple of different things having to do with our lawmakers down in Springfield and the different pieces of legislation that are crossing their desks this week. One of those will be the Gun Control Act, the Rifle Act. So that has to do with where you keep your firearms, how you can track the firearms, and there's so much that goes into that. So we're going to talk with one of the commissioners that actually led Cook County to support this bill. We'll talk with them coming up about 2:30 about that. Going to talk with our folks in Lake County about the success of their K-9 unit and how many times they've been used, not only in Lake County, but throughout the state. They have been on a roll. But first and foremost, you know, people in Chicago don't back down from a fight. And there we have one on our hands right now since Indiana said, hey, Chicago Bears, come on down here. So today is actually Rally Day, all right? There is a growing coalition of suburbs and their suburban mayors who are coming together to say, wait, Chicago Bears, you stay here in Illinois. This is where you belong. And Rolling Meadows Mayor Laura Sanoika is joining me now. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me, Anita. Pleasure to be here.
Pronounce your last name correctly?
Yes, Laura Sanoika. It's tough. You did a great job.
Wonderful. All right. I want to make sure. Now, you know, we've talked with Touchdown Arlington, and the folks in Arlington Heights, they said, we've got this growing coalition. Like we are bringing in everybody who can say, from a regional perspective, this is where the Chicago Bears need to be. How does Rolling Meadows fit into that?
Yeah, I think, first of all, it's important to understand that Rolling Meadows surrounds the proposed site. So we surround it to the north, to the west, to the south. And so in order to be able to get to the site for any type of stadium function, you have to go through Rolling Meadows first. So this impacts Rolling Meadows in a way that I think is maybe more than any other region besides Arlington Heights. And so it's been very important to us from the beginning. In fact, not only have we been involved from the purchase of the Arlington Park property, but we've also been involved in preparing for the Bears to potentially come. In May of 2025, we contracted with a consultant and a lobbyist in Springfield, knowing that we would need assistance to make this happen. And sure enough, right now, the biggest roadblock for the Bears choosing to stay in Illinois and to choose the Northwest suburbs is the mega projects bill in Springfield.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the mega projects bill. For folks who don't really know the ins and out of it, give us an overview.
Certainly. So it's sponsored by Representative Mary Beth Canty, who will also be speaking this evening at the rally to provide a much more in-depth view of the bill. It's quite extensive. But the long and short of it is that it will allow for taxing bodies to be able to negotiate with developers who are planning on making multi-million-dollar investments. And in this case, we're talking about billions of dollars of investments for this site.
Now, when we say that, obviously there's some opposition to that thought, and it's caused many of the lawmakers, the governor on down, to say, well, is this the time when people are looking at tighter budgets in their homes to say we're going to find a way to help billionaires or millionaires?
So I think that affordability is important, and that is a focus. I'm a local mayor, so affordability is the main goal. It's not affordability if we allow for up to 56,000 construction jobs and 9,000 permanent jobs to leave the state of Illinois and to leave the backyard of Rolling Meadows. So for us to be looking not just at this year, but making sure that we're sustainable into the future, we have to be able to recognize when we have multi-billion-dollar investments on our doorstep. So it would be a disservice to not just my city, but the entire state if we were to see the Bears move to Indiana.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what would you say to the governor if that should happen?
It would be, I think, a signal that Illinois is struggling to compete if we're losing an Illinois franchise to a neighbor across state lines.
It's a big decision for sure. Time is ticking. So tell me just about the urgency of the moment.
We have not a moment to spare. So next week, I will be in Springfield speaking with legislators, senators, and representatives. I will be speaking tonight at the rally in Arlington Heights as well in support of the mega projects bill. I think that it's also important that local residents, business owners also make their voice heard and that they speak with their legislators and show that this needs to be a priority now. The Indiana session finishes at the end of February. So even though the Illinois session will continue until May, we don't have that kind of time. Indiana has already passed a bill that provides incentives directly to the Bears. And we're right now just trying to figure out how to codify the ability to be able to negotiate property taxes. The Bears are still going to pay property taxes. There is no check that's going to be cut to the Bears through this bill.
Mm-hmm. Were you pleased to see the governor kind of sound a little more optimistic about it this week? You know, kind of for the first time in a long time saying some progress had been made?
Absolutely. I think that Governor Pritzker is very much a leader. I also think that Governor Pritzker has more sway than perhaps other governor administrations in the past within Illinois. So his support, I think, is a very positive signal for the General Assembly to act quickly on this bill.
Mm-hmm. So tell us about the rally tonight. Give me a picture of what people would see and what the expectation is.
I think what has been lacking is a very clear local, regional unification behind this project. And I think what people will see tonight is the unification that needed to be there from the beginning. I also think that it's going to be a diverse group. It's not just local politicians like myself, but you're also going to have business leaders and you're going to have other taxing bodies that are at stake here. This is what the mega projects bill is about. So you're going to see park districts, you're going to see townships, and you're going to see the school districts. And I know it's very boring to talk about property taxes, but the reality is in Illinois, the school districts are the highest percentage of our property taxes. And the fact that we have school districts who are speaking in support of this bill and in support of this economic tool means that we have a success that's just waiting for the General Assembly to pass.
Give me a little more of an idea of what a stadium in Arlington Heights would do to Rolling Meadows in terms of the impact that it would have on your area. Do you already have some development that you know would get a direct impact from it?
Yes, so Rolling Meadows has already made changes to our comprehensive plan and to our zoning. We've done a corridor study along Kirchhoff Road, which is our downtown. So we are anticipating development, and we are also anticipating there to be immediate impacts. We have corporate headquarters here in Rolling Meadows. We have very robust logistics companies. We have construction companies that would directly benefit from a project like this. And so the immediate impact is present. The long-term impact is present. It's not something that we can turn our heads away from and ignore it by any means.
This isn't the first time that Indiana has offered the Bears a home. And it's also not the first time the Bears have said they need a new home. So why do you think all of this is happening now?
I think that the Bears have always been, at least the McCaskies are on record of saying that they want to be in Arlington Heights and in Arlington Park specifically. So I don't think that this is a random wish or desire in the past 3 years. I think that this has always been in the long-term planning. If I were to, just have a thought out there on where the Bears' mindset might be. But the important part for us as community leaders is we're ready to receive that kind of a project. And that we would be able to immediately take benefits from a project like this and to essentially elevate the Bears to be a world-class team. They already are. I think that we can just add to that.
What would you say, or how would you feel if they didn't end up moving at all, if they stayed in Chicago?
If they stayed in Chicago, then we would probably, the consequences of them staying in Chicago are it's not a straightforward line either. It seems that there's a lot of difficulties in staying in Chicago, and Arlington Heights and Rolling Meadows are able to provide an alternative to the difficulties that they're running into there.
Okay, this will be very interesting how this plays out. I mean, everybody's watching it. So I know you all are starting up tonight at, 6:30 with your program?
Yes, doors open at 6 p.m. and then the program does start at 6:30. So we look forward to seeing everyone there.
Yeah. And I said that you all are a growing coalition. I'm looking at the list. You have State Representative Mary Beth Canty, the Arlington Heights Mayor. You have some restaurants that are, restaurant owners who are on this list. The Township High School District Board President. I mean, there's so many different people from different perspectives who will be able to speak to how the Bears going to Arlington Heights could help. And again, the urgency of getting this done sometime soon. So thank you for making a little time to chat here on Chicago Live. And please keep us updated.
Of course. Thanks, Anita.
All right. You take care. It's 2:13
Bye-bye.
right now, everybody. Give us 2 minutes and we'll be right back. 2:15 right now. Always happy to celebrate the hard-working law enforcement officers across our state on two legs, but today we're talking about those who protect us on four. I want to go ahead and bring in the deputy chief for the sheriff's office in Lake County, Christopher Cavelli, to talk a little bit about the K-9 unit that was hard at work in 2025, and I'm sure will be in 2026 as well. Great to see you.
Hey, great to see you too.
This is pretty outstanding stuff. Being deployed 485 times. I'm sure that goes well beyond just Lake County.
Yeah, it definitely does. 485 times is quite a lot for a K-9 team at any agency. We're fortunate to have 10 K-9s who work throughout Lake County. They work throughout the Chicagoland region when they're requested by outside agencies as well. So pretty much 24/7, there is a K-9 on duty here in Lake County.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about how many K-9s you have and how this unit has really grown.
It has. About eight years ago, we were down to 3 K-9 teams, and over the past 8 years, we've really built that up, and that's been at Sheriff Eidelberg's initiative. We now have 8 multi-purpose K-9s, so they handle a wide variety of things from firearm detection to tracking of people that might be missing and endangered, to searching for individuals or searching for drugs and things of that nature. And then we have 2 that are more specialized. One that specifically looks to detect explosives or the items that are used in explosives, as well as firearms. And then another K-9 that K-9 Enzo, who is our electronic detection K-9 and works on a lot of child exploitation type cases, looking for hidden electronics during search warrants.
Mm-hmm. I believe that our Tia Ewing did a special about that particular skill. You just don't think of having a K-9 for detecting electronic devices, but and how it's been helped in those child exploitation cases there. What maybe when you look at the growth, what more do you think they could be used for over time?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, they have a lot of purposes. They serve a great use in law enforcement and also in public relations, too.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things we pride ourselves on is this past year we did nearly 60 community presentations where we're able to go out, whether it's to schools, county fairs, different events, and just show off the skills of our K-9s, let the community see what their K-9s are doing for them to keep the county safe. And it's been very successful. And having 10 of them on duty at any time here in Lake County has proven over and over how valuable they are, especially when it comes to searching for missing endangered people. Every few weeks we have an individual that may have wandered off with maybe memory issues, dementia, where our K-9s are deployed and help locate individuals like that, or missing children who run off from home. I mean, they really are invaluable.
Yeah, and when you think of, again, the success of 2025 and more people hearing about that success, do you think that in 2026, like, maybe you'll do even more?
Absolutely. I think that the opportunities are endless. I think that there is room for growth where we can even add additional K-9s on. That is something we're always looking at. But the resource and the abilities they have has really proven successful, and we will continue to tap into them.
Are they all the same breed dog, or do you have various breeds?
So we have 9 German Shepherds, and then we have 1 lab. Our lab is our electronic detection K-9. German Shepherds have proven to be a good, reliable species of K-9 here in this region, especially with the fluctuating temperatures. We can have extreme heat, extreme cold, as we all know, and German Shepherds can really hold up to the weather and really work in those conditions.
Mm-hmm. And was it K-9 Axel that had the family? Was it Axel?
So we had K-9 Dax, who was partnered with Deputy John Ferlenza for a number of years and did tremendous things throughout the region. K-9 Dax was injured during an apprehension a couple of years ago, but before he passed away, he was the father of a litter of puppies, and one of those puppies, K-9 Lux, is now partnered with Deputy John Verlenza,
Oh,
and they are on
Lux.
patrol together.
Lux. Okay, yeah. I just remember us following that, story for so long. It was so beautiful, and it was tragic in the beginning, and then just this beautiful ending to it. That we got a whole new generation that came from it. So Canine Lux. Okay, we'll continue to follow Canine Lux's journey. One other thing, can you talk a little bit about the training for these dogs?
Absolutely. So when a handler is partnered with a new canine, they go through at least 8 weeks of initial, very intensive training every single day for those 8 weeks. But then that training doesn't stop afterwards. They're attending multiple trainings a week with their canine partners, whether that be tracking, firearm detection, drug detection, whatever the case is. They keep those skills sharp. And last year in 2025, our canines, the 10 teams, worked nearly 2,500 hours just in training to keep those skills as sharp as possible. And their success has been proven over and over out here in our patrol division of the Sheriff's Office.
Wow. Obviously, like I said, I mean, we are highlighting their work. We celebrate the four-legged officers. Tell us a little bit about the two-legged officers. How are you all doing? Everything going okay in 2026?
Yeah, we're off to a good start, knock on wood. We have a great organization here filled with great people who are out there in the community and really take pride in serving our community in Lake County, keeping the community safe, and it's a great team.
Well, thank you all for what you do on a regular basis. We certainly appreciate it. Great to hear the success of the K-9 unit. I hope that it does continue to grow. Do you all get maybe donations from some nonprofits for a vest for the K-9s or any type of other equipment for them?
We do. There's an awesome organization out there called Vested Interest in Canine, and just about every one of our canines has received a stab and bullet resistant vest from this organization. Many of the vests are donated in either a person's honor or maybe an animal's honor, and our canines are out there protected because of this organization. Certainly they accept donations, and a number of people have been so fortunate or so very kind to donate here to our office specifically for our canine program, and it's really helped to make our program thrive.
Well, we want to keep them safe and you safe as well. So again, thank you for what you do on a regular basis, and thanks for making some time for us here on Chicago Live today.
Thanks for having me as always.
All right, take care. 2:23 right now. Give us 2 minutes and we'll be back. Okay, welcome back, everyone. 2:27 right now. I want to have a conversation about a really important piece of legislation that's being contemplated and kind of in the process of getting approval right now. And this is the Illinois Responsibility in Firearms Act. Obviously, there are very strong opinions when it comes to this particular issue. So I'm going to bring in Commissioner Scott Britton, who's with the Cook County Board of Commissioners, to talk a little bit about really championing the Board of Commissioners to pass a resolution in support of it. Thank you so much for your time. So obviously there are plenty of pieces of legislation or that would pass your desk. What made you want to champion this?
So I've been on the board for almost 2 terms now, and one of the things that frustrates me more than anything is the fact that we've not been able to significantly improve the results of gun violence in Cook County. I'm a North Suburban Commissioner. It doesn't affect my area as much, but there are areas in the city that even though we've had a significant reduction in murders and gun violence, it's still a huge problem. And there's not much we can do. We're kind of bound by both federal and state regulations on firearm, both manufacturers and distribution. But this was something I thought we could champion that's currently pending in the General Assembly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what would passing it at you all's level effectively do?
So this is just the sense of the board, which passed unanimously at our last board meeting last week. The concept is that we want to support the General Assembly and the 2 sponsors, Representative Olakal and Senator Peters, in getting this through the General Assembly, and we hope to the governor's desk. So this is really just the sense of the board. We are not allowed to, legally limit or regulate firearms, but we can show our support for the work that's being done in Springfield, and that's what we've both done in passing this and then transmitting it both to the governor and to the leaders of both the House and the Senate and the General Assembly.
And there are many ways of looking at combating gun violence. Obviously, we were just speaking with a law enforcement officer. Like law enforcement has their place on the things that they can do, but you all are looking at this in this particular act. The Illinois Responsibility in Firearms Act looks at it from several other vantage points. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, it's interesting because I'm a little different Cook County Commissioner. That I come from downstate Illinois. I got the first shotgun when I was 12 years old. And I'm not trying to argue against responsible gun ownership. That is not what this is all about. But gun violence, particularly in Cook County, results in tens of millions of dollars in expenses to the county. Our estimate just statewide, just in Illinois, is $18 to $20 million in either direct or indirect costs from gun violence. And that's people being injured and killed or other costs associated with health care. And, we run the second largest public health system in the United States. So we treat a lot of people for gunshot wounds. A lot of those people don't have insurance, and we treat them, of course, regardless of their ability to pay. So this is, in effect, a way to establish a fund similar to workers' compensation or state guarantee funds and insurance, where the gun manufacturers would pay a fee, and it would only be based on if their weapons are used in violent crimes or suicides. And they would have to then pay a certain amount of money into a fund that would then be run by the state to compensate for medical care and other direct and indirect costs associated with gun violence. Again, it is not in any way limiting the ability to sell or distribute firearms, but it does enable us to help those people who are directly impacted by it by providing further financial services to them.
And when you talk about manufacturers, you're also talking about tracking guns.
So there is going to have to be a system whereby we're going to track the use of these weapons. So if it's a particular manufacturer is used in a particular crime, we're going to need to know that manufacturer so that they can then be put into the database and that they would appropriately be charged under the rules and regulations of this legislation for the amount of money that they would then owe. It's a pro rata share of how many guns you're using or are being used in crimes or other activities in the state of Illinois. So yes, we're tracking them, but not to confiscate, not to restrict, but just to figure out what the amount of money is going to be for the various manufacturers to put into this fund.
And you're speaking to 2 things that obviously become major headwinds in a fight like this. When anyone hears about changes to gun laws, for those who may be responsible, they may think, no, you're trying to take away our guns. And for those who make a profit off of selling weapons, they may feel like you're cutting into their bottom line.
No doubt they will, and I'm sure the NRA will not be very happy with this if it passes. This is the first kind of legislation of its kind in the country, so it's going to be tested, I'm sure, in the courts, and there's going to be issues that we're going to have to deal with, and including how it relates to federal firearms regulations that have been passed in Congress. So I understand all of that. Again, this does not in any way inhibit anyone from selling a firearm or possessing a firearm in the state of Illinois. There's a whole different talk about that, and I'd be happy to talk about that in a different context, because I do think we have way too many guns that are too readily available and used in crimes too frequently in Cook County. Most of those guns come from outside the state of Illinois. But I cannot regulate that, but I can enable us to be able to compensate victims of gun violence. We have spent tens of millions of dollars in the county and in the city of Chicago to try to have violence prevention programs, which I think have been successful. The numbers show we've had an almost 50% reduction in murders in the last 4 years. That's significant, but it's still way too many. And I think that being able to at least establish this fund is a step in the right direction. Whatever happens next, there's no slippery slope here. This is a very limited and I think a very appropriate way that we can at least compensate those who are injured in gun violence in a way that we can't do now.
Yeah, and I mean, you spoke about being from the northwest suburbs. It is true that, like, it's kind of like when you think of issues in one particular area, I mean, they don't stay in one particular area forever.
And certainly we have, instances of gun violence throughout the state of Illinois, and it's not limited to the city of Chicago by any means. But if you look at, there's called a heat map that shows gun incidents in Cook County that the sheriff generates, and there are lots of red dots in the city and in the south and west suburbs, and there's not many where I am, and that is related to economic availability and the conduct of people who live in those areas and what's going on with economic challenges, education, and multiple different things. But it exists everywhere, and it needs to be, addressed in a way that is going to be successful in at least giving some people help that are not getting it now.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when we're reading firearms have become and continue to be the leading cause of death for children and teens, pregnant women. I don't know how many years we've read that. But it feels like, way too many. Why are we coming to this conversation now?
So I think this was a very interesting, and this really came from advocates who are talking about ways that we can try to address this problem without being able to get things through the Congress and certainly through this president, which is not going to happen. Therefore, until we can make a change in other parts of our government, I think that people were at least trying to realize something they can do. And this is certainly a step in the right direction in holding gun manufacturers responsible for the actions of their products. It's happened in tobacco, it's happened in opioids, it's happened in multiple different categories of products that have caused damage to people and that those industries paid. That's what we're trying to do here. The gun manufacturers have made lots of money on selling weapons, which are often used both in crimes and in suicides, and suicide is one of the largest use of firearms in the United States. We see it constantly here in Cook County. This would be another step in what I hope is a longer conversation about how we can truly address the scourge of gun violence in not only Cook County, but in the country as a whole.
Yeah, you mentioned, though, that many of the guns that are used in committing acts of violence throughout our state come from other states. And people in some of those other states would say, look at all of the hoops and hurdles they jump through in Illinois to put restrictions on gun owners or gun ownership, and yet all of the issues that they have.
I think that's exactly the problem. Those restrictions and limitations exist in the state of Illinois. They do not in our surrounding states. That's why when straw man purchasers go to buy multiple guns at a time, they don't buy them in Cook County. They go across the border to Indiana or Iowa or Wisconsin, because it's a lot easier and the restrictions are a lot fewer. That is why we want to have more universal, and I would hope more stringent gun laws, because these weapons are being bought en masse and sold to people who shouldn't have them. I think all of us, Republicans and Democrats, can agree we don't want felons to be able to easily access guns. And I'll give you a perfect example. I was talking to the sheriff the other day as to why we've had such a significant increase in gun violence over the last 10 years or so. It's because there's a gun that's easily available to you. Whereas before, people would have a fight, they'd use their fists or baseball bats. Almost everybody has a gun now. So if there's a conflict, it's used almost immediately. And that's when these economic consequences come through that we all, as taxpayers, have to pay for.
Yeah, you pay for it on the front end or the back, and that is very true there. We're having conversations about physical guns. Does this act address ghost guns and switches, things that have really changed the nature of what we see on the streets?
So this only applies to gun manufacturers. So ghost guns, which would be put together by an individual, probably would not be covered by this. And that's obviously covered by other rules and regulations, including things that have been passed in the state of Illinois. Further regulation, I think, is appropriate for that. Private gun sales, it'd be harder to do. I think we can, again, look at the manufacturer, even in private gun sales, and that would then enable us to assign this amount of money to them for this fund. But it would be very, very difficult. And the switches, like to transfer a semi-automatic to an automatic weapon, that would be not covered by necessarily this stuff. Plus, a lot of those are illegal. So it all really, again, it's a very limited, and I wish it was more comprehensive, but we're about the politics of the doable. And at this point, this is something that we think we can do. We think it will pass constitutional muster. And by doing that, we'll be able to compensate for those people who are currently pretty much left on their own.
So tell me what exactly would happen. First and foremost, give me a timeline of what happens from here. And let's say it goes all the way, because you said this seems doable. Okay, so let's say that it goes all the way in Springfield. Then what happens? What effectively happens after that?
So if the governor would sign it, and I assume he will, it sets up a not-for-profit organization that from the money that's generated would run this organization. It would then coordinate with local law enforcement, just as you indicated, where we'd have to track where these guns are being used and what crimes, and that would then enable us to assign a percentage to the manufacturer, whoever it may be. That would enable us then to create this fund that would then be controlled by the state. It's not controlled by the county, but they would then allocate that money as needed throughout the state of Illinois. And so it would be a process, because you're going to have to fill up the fund. But this is the same way that it happened with the Insurance Guarantee Fund and the opioid fund. It was all distributed once the money was brought in from the various manufacturers. So all of this would take time. I know it's still pending in the General Assembly. They're in session now. I'm hoping it would come out this session and not have to go to veto or another session later on. But at this point, it's really just a matter of getting the votes together. And again, being a downstate Democrat, I understand that there is some hesitancy with some folks down there, even in my party. And I think it's going to take some convincing to make sure we get on board and that this is a good idea for all the state of Illinois.
Very interesting indeed. I mean, because you are a downstate Democrat, what are some of your constituents saying to you about championing this?
Well, I haven't lived there for 40 years, so I mean, I still talk to my relatives down there, and they still are very conscious of the fact that they want to make sure that they have the ability to hunt, which is a big part of my culture growing up. This really wouldn't have anything to do with that, because those weapons aren't used in crimes typically. You're not going to have a 12-gauge shotgun typically used in a drive-by shooting. You're going to have something much, much different. So for those reasons, I don't think they're going to be as hesitant about the concept as it is this a limitation on the Second Amendment that they just don't like, without kind of a knee-jerk reaction, without really looking at what the legislation itself does. And again, it's not to track your weapon, to take it from you. It's not putting any limitations on what you can or cannot purchase. It's just setting up a fund by the manufacturers, not the user, to be able to provide some help to people who have been really significantly harmed by the scourge of gun violence, particularly in Cook County.
Yeah, I just always feel like, we're having the discussion right now and getting into more of the details, and we'll post this online, and hopefully some people will go back and watch it on YouTube or on the Fox Local app. But a lot of people just hear this on the surface and they're like, no.
I'm aware, and believe me, I haven't heard much from anybody yet, but I'm expecting to, and I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody who wants to talk about it, including the fact that I think it would be supported by law enforcement, that we're just trying to do something a little bit different in order to hold gun manufacturers responsible for the products that they use and the consequences of what they're used for. And if that can't be something we could do in a bipartisan nature, I'm not sure what else we can do, because this is a reasonable and limited help for those who have suffered from gun violence.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, please keep us updated on how this goes from here.
Sounds good. Will do.
Take care. Thank you so much for your time today.
You're welcome. Thanks.
All right. It's 2:43, everybody. We're back in 2 minutes. All right, welcome back, everyone. 2:45 right now. Let's take you out to the West Coast, where a celebration is moving right along here. Of course, the Super Bowl champs are having their day. This is a part of the parade there. Listen, the signal might go in and out just a bit here, but we have been watching them as the crowds have been building, coming off of Sunday's performance here. All right, now we're cooking there. You can see some of the players, big smiles there, along with some of their family members. This is their parade that they have worked so hard for. Yes, listen, I know for many of us, we're looking at this and we're thinking, it should be us. But it's them for this year. We're still working on the Bears getting there. So congrats to the Seattle Seahawks there, of course, beating the New England Patriots on Sunday and now getting their time to be celebrated in their city here. They had their trophy presentation earlier today. Now the parade is underway. Their fans are called the 12. So they have come out in great form Uniform to celebrate their team as they are the newly crowned title winners there. But it is actually the second for the franchise, the second Super Bowl for the Seattle Seahawks there. So they know something about this. They've been there before, and yet again, they are having this moment today, being able to wave at the crowds, hear all the folks cheering, and just celebrating what a wonderful season they had. So nice to see the celebration that they're having, all the kids that got a day off from school so that they could go out and be a part of this as well. No one seems to have on the super huge coats, so even the weather seems to be cooperating, and you just never know what the weather's going to do in Seattle. But yeah, they've been in downtown Seattle there. Expected to take about 2 hours for this parade, but again, they're the team, they're celebrating the 12s. If you watched the game on Sunday, even the commenters, talked about the fact that it seemed like it was a Seattle home game because there were just so many people from Seattle that drove right down to be there for the big game. So there were a ton of Seattle Seahawks fans, the 12s, that were there that day and now here taking part in this celebration there of their Super Bowl win. Bringing the Lombardi back home there to Seattle, and we're still hoping that we get it back here to Chicago one day. One day we will get it. 2:48 though, let's bring it back here into Studio 32 so we can stop crying about it not being us. We're still a bridesmaid right now, not the bride
Never
today.
The bride.
Yeah. But we do have the weather to celebrate this week. It feels phenomenal outside.
Yeah, we are really winning when it comes to this category because not just this week, but next week, we have temperatures that are staying way above average. And today, it's stunning. I spent some time outside before coming into work today, and I swear, this is like bringing me back to life.
Yeah.
Because we have sunshine and we have bearable temperatures.
We're thawing out.
We sure are.
Getting ready to come out of hibernation.
There's a lot of melting taking place. And so far, I really haven't seen any flooding of low-lying areas. So I think, it's been a really kind of slow melt for us, which has been wonderful to again, thaw us out. So temperatures today, we've been sitting right around 40. We have the sunshine. The wind actually is making a pretty decent difference though.
Okay.
Wind is chilly. If you can block yourself from that wherever you want to spend some time outdoors today, then it's much nicer. But with the wind chill, we have wind chills down to about 30 degrees in a lot of locations.
40s are like prime time for runners. So it's like all of a sudden I've seen this burst of runners outside with shorts, but also mittens and gloves, hats, gloves, and all of the things, but shorts on as well.
Yeah. It makes a huge difference. Just 10 degrees either way of that freezing mark makes a huge difference when you try to do any sort of activity outside. But the warmth, it's sticking around. I think throughout the next couple of days here, we're going to be about the same, upper 30s, low 40s expected again tomorrow. But then by Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, Anita, I have been upping my high temperature daily. Yes, so it has been feeling good. We are looking at upper 40s to near 50 degrees on Friday. Ooh. I think we are in the 50s when we get to Saturday and Sunday.
Heating things up on
for
Saturday.
Valentine's Day. So yes, it's going to be beautiful this weekend. If you don't have plans to be out and about, make some. It's going to be sunny. We're going to have temps right around 50 degrees, and it doesn't stop there. So even going into next week, things look really good. We're going to be in the mid 50s, I think, by Monday and Tuesday. I'm not willing just yet to put those 60s on there for Tuesday, but I think we're going to be close. Now, I know you're looking at Wednesday, everybody.
How could you not?
So, disclaimer, of course, it's 7 days away.
Right.
Can be some changes, but as of right now, most of our most reliable models that we take a look at when we're forecasting the weather, bringing us into the 60s, and several of those pushing us into the upper 60s. So, yes, next week, I don't know about you, Anita. I'm already feeling a cold coming on for Wednesday of next week.
I think we're feeling each other, sis.
Yeah. Next week looks amazing. It looks so spring-like. And we've earned it.
We can say I don't know. I was up there with Emily. I think I got it from her.
I know.
You can say the same,
Yeah. Wednesday of next week.
when we're both sick next Wednesday.
Yeah, it's going to be stunning. It's been way below average for the majority of the winter so far. that looks like we're going to begin to see a nice change here. Now, of course, seasonable is always best if you can get that, because just,
then you get worried for other reasons.
Right. So it's good to see things where they're supposed to be, but I don't think any of us can complain about the warmth here the next couple of weeks. And it looks like as we go into the end of February too, the warmer than average stretch is going to continue. Now, does that mean 50s and 60s? Not necessarily. Remember, average is mid-30s.
Listen, and anything is better than negative 30 degrees outside.
And we had our fair share of that.
Yeah, we really got a winter.
We did.
This year.
We did. So far at O'Hare, we've picked up 31.5 inches of snow. The average for this time of February is around 25 inches. Now, the overall average for the whole snow season, so all of winter, is typically right around 37, 38 inches. So we're coming up on that. But for this point of the year, this time of February, we are above average. Not surprisingly.
Let's hope we fall short in the end.
I'll root for normal.
Yeah, it's just, I was saying earlier that you have those times kind of summer to fall, fall to winter, winter to spring, where everyone's like, is this faux fall?
Yeah.
Is this faux spring?
Definitely a faux spring. We know better than to think like this is it, right? Of course, we're still in February.
We can wish.
We still get snow sometimes, as late as April into
May.
I think the latest snow on record for O'Hare, I believe, is the first week of May. So it's still possible, but hey, let's not hope for that now.
No.
But I would expect us to go back to seeing at least a couple cold snaps here or there, a few systems coming through bringing snow before the end of the winter.
Well, I think the biggest thing is that we're seeing change.
Hope.
Change gives us hope.
Yeah.
That even if we're not to the promised land yet, we must be getting close.
We're getting closer. And actually, meteorological spring, that begins March 1st. And we're only, a half a month away from that now?
Not too far away. Yeah. We're liking what we're seeing thus far.
Me too.
And not a whole lot of precipitation at all, though, in that 7 day.
And, I was just taking a look at the drought monitor, because if you think back to last year, not only during the winter, but the spring, the summer, we had really, really heavy downpours, but it was never like a slow burn, a slow rain like we needed. So we were dealing with drought conditions for the majority of last year. And with all of the precipitation that we've picked up so far this winter, most of the Chicagoland areas actually crawled out of that. So right now we do have abnormally dry conditions across, it's mainly the outer edges of our viewing area. So places like McHenry County, DeKalb County, down toward LaSalle, then rounding around the south to Kankakee, portions of Newton and Jasper counties dealing with abnormally dry conditions, but everywhere else, no drought status has been listed whatsoever. So we're in good shape, and all of the snow that we've picked up, the snowpack that we've had, it's made a really big dent in our drought.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we're sitting in good, in good status for several things right now.
We can kind of sit on cruise control, and we can be happy about
we like
the
cruise
no
control
precip.
like this.
We can be happy about the no precip. We can be happy about the warmth.
Yeah, keep it around for a while. All right. 2:55, everyone. Thanks for coming up.
You're
We
welcome.
appreciate you as always. We're back in 2 minutes. All right, welcome back, everyone. It's just about 3 o'clock, so let me tell you about some of the things that we have planned for this final hour here together for Chicago Live. We're going to talk about LaGrange Restaurant Week before we get out of here. You know, we had Chicago Restaurant Week just a few weeks ago. This week is a Black Restaurant Week for Black History Month, and so we're glad to be able to bring on our friends from LaGrange to talk about what's going on there. I think Aurora just had theirs, so yeah, there's a lot going on. Lots of places that we can all get to check out. I've been trying out some new restaurants for all of these different restaurant weeks, so we'll find out some more to put on our list. We're also going to call in our friends from the Shed Aquarium as we're getting some new information about some things that were happening over the last couple of nights outside. But first, before we get to those conversations, we want to have a conversation about the morning commute. Today, and whether what happened today could affect the morning commute for quite some time. You know, we often hear about and see things that happen in the morning or the course of, you know, any significant commute where it really slows down quite a few people, and it may take hours to get, you know, underhand, but this was pretty significant, and we're talking about the Metra train derailment this morning. Meg Thomas Riley is joining me now to talk about Southwest service being affected and where we go from here, maybe a timeline of what we can expect. Thank you so much for always joining us when we call.
Oh, you're welcome.
Now, I think the last time we were laughing and joking about great things for Metra. Today is a very serious situation. First and foremost, can we get some details about what happened out there?
Okay. Well, we got word about 4:45 this morning that a CSX freight train that was using a line called the Indiana Harbor Belt, which crosses our tracks at Chicago Ridge, derailed at the crossing. So we have a significant derailment, and it was completely blocking our tracks. So we were not able to provide any service on the Southwest service this morning. And once again this evening, we will not be able to provide service. Because the thing about a derailment is once you remove the cars, then you have to assess and repair the damage that was done. And we have damage to our tracks, and the Indiana Harbor Belt / CSX have damage to the tracks their train was on. So we will be working through the night to repair that. We want people to watch Metra.com. We will update. We're hoping we'll be able to provide service in the morning, but we don't know that for certain yet.
How many people would you say are impacted by this?
Probably have about 6,000 rides a day, so cut that in half, about 3,000 people. But I mean, it's significant. This is your commute in the morning, and you rely on that. And we weren't able to do it because of something that is out of our control, but we have to restore the tracks so they can be used safely. Mm-hmm. And in addition, down there, the derailment also caused problems because of damage to the rails to several road crossings in the Oaklawn community, in Chicago Ridge community. So it's affected more than just our commuters, and we and the Freight Railroad are working as fast as we can to restore it, but there's a lot of work that has to be done.
What kind of work is that?
We've had some rail that was damaged, and our signal system, part of our signal system was damaged. I can't totally speak for them, but from what I've heard, they, in addition to rail damage, the car damage, they have significant switch and signal damage that they have to take care of.
So we know that people were affected on their way to work today. Would they be affected coming back?
Yes, they're not going to be able to use the Southwest service.
Period.
Until further notice. And we are hoping that further notice only extends until through this evening's commute, but we can't guarantee that at this time.
Yeah. What types of options do people have in a situation like this?
Well, for some people, of course, work from home can be an option. Maybe not their preferred if they weren't prepared with their computer, because, of course, none of us knew this was going to happen. But the Rock Island line can be an option for some people. Heritage Court, it depends on where you live, but the Rock Island is probably the best of Metra's line's option for most of the residents down there. It's just going to be a further drive to a different station.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of cost is this when you have something like this happen for you all?
It's right now, it's probably in the high 100,000s, but I don't know, and I won't have a breakdown of costs yet. As you can see, and I don't know when this is live.
Yeah, we're giving you everyone a live look.
Yeah, they are still moving the actual equipment out of there. So that's both railroads, and our guys are going to be out there until it's finished. I see mostly Metra right there, but and the freight, and they've got to. That's literally, it's basically an intersection, 2 tracks crossing 2 tracks, and so they've gotten the equipment out of there, but now we've got to go and take care of all the. There's rail. What we called rolled, which means instead of sitting up straight, it went like that for several hundred feet. So we've got to reattach it. If it's damaged in any way, replace it. And we also have some signal systems that were damaged that as soon as we learned they were damaged, we started building new equipment so we can install it, but you can't install anything until they give you the clear. And then, of course, that's what we saw immediately in the morning. There could be more other damage that I'm not aware of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That we have to.
Which is going to require, I'm sure, several inspections before you all are back up and running.
And working through the night to make sure it's put together.
Mm-hmm. You've been there for a while with Metra. When's the last time you saw something this bad?
Probably like more than 15 years ago, we had, and this was even worse, on the Milwaukee West line, we had a situation where a freight train derailed very early in the morning, just like this. It was a larger derailment, but it caught fire.
Oh.
So in addition to having to put out the fire, remove the cars, we spent an entire weekend rebuilding the entire intersection with that other railroad and the switches because it was completely damaged in the fire. So that was a longer repair and just as significant impact to the riders on the Milwaukee District West line, which is the line that goes up to Elgin.
Yeah. Do we know what actually caused this?
That's still under investigation. I mean, I can just say generally in cases of derailments, it's either a mechanical factor with the train, rail conditions, or a combination of the two. But that's not necessarily what happened here because there's always, as you know, the term accident implies, it could always be something else as well. So, but they are still investigating. It's up to, that's the freight railroad's responsibility. Our responsibility is going to be basically repairing what was damaged for us and getting our service restored as quickly as possible.
Yeah. What message do you want riders to hear most right now?
Right now, what I want them to hear most is that until further notice, Southwest Service riders, that line is not going to be an option. I need, but pay attention. We are working diligently to repair it, and we do hope to have it restored by tomorrow morning's rush. But we don't know that for certain right now. So please check advisories, Metra.com. Start making your plans now for what you need to do for an alternate if you need an alternate in the morning. If all systems are go, we're going to tell you as soon as we know in the overnight and post it on our website, Metra.com, and put it out in our alerts that go out on Twitter and some emails to let you know what to expect. But as of right now, we don't want to promise something that we may not be able to deliver because we're still we're repairing what we know is broken, but we're still evaluating if anything else is affected by this.
Right. And you said they will work into the night.
Oh yeah, we'll just keep going. No, we're not going to be doing. It's not 8 hours on and off. It's till it's done. If we have to call, part of the day is also preparing crews to do relief work to come in, to help out with this, because we knew we were going to be standing around for hours before they removed anything. Mm-hmm. And right now it looks like this is not our stuff being taken care of. I don't know exactly the angle, but looks like one railroad is doing something and moving something out of the way. And it looks like they're still removing debris, to be honest.
The yellow that's sitting across there, do we know what that is?
It's probably some kind of service car, that you could probably load stuff up on and tote it off, going down the other way on the railroad. I don't know exactly what it is, but yeah, it has a number on it, so it is a certified piece of equipment to be out in the railroad. But it's probably something so they can, because looks like there are a crane of some sort still picking up stuff. So it's probably like a flat car to just a very low riding flat car.
Yeah, and be it that this was a freight train, what's the greater impact in terms of like where it was supposed to be going, the destination, what it was carrying, all of those types of things?
Yeah, well, I don't know exactly what it was carrying, but anytime there's an impact, and that's the thing about the Chicago Railroad Network, is that it is very complex and very, very busy. Mm-hmm. So because of this, Indiana Harbor Belt, which is a major it's a short line, but what it does is it works as a transfer point between different railroad systems and different yards. So they have different trackage going from Hammond, Indiana, all the way up to Franklin Park. And railroads use them as short connections to get to other yards or to transfer goods to a different railroad for the route. And this blocks one of the major pathways right now. So in addition to this, we have a backup of freight traffic, and it's been explained to me over the years. It's not just a backup in the Chicago area. If these freight goods can't flow through, they can be backed up several states waiting for an opportunity or a reroute to get through the area.
Yikes! That's kind of what I thought.
There's nothing simple about railroad.
Yeah.
Period.
and when they're laying track or relaying it, how tedious is that work? How long does it take?
It depends on the difficulty in the situation, but now what they've got to look at is this rail, in our case, that's rolled. Is it just rolled and can be put upright and reclamped and spikes put in and respiked? Or are we going to have to cut sections out of it and actually install new rail? So all that stuff isn't just sitting next to the tracks. It's all got to be brought up there. We have to bring our equipment. We do have the equipment for doing all this work because we do replace ties and rail throughout the summer months to keep this railroad in good condition. It's like, it's the equivalent of a road crew going out in the summer and clearing things out and cleaning things up. But it is a very like they said this morning with what they thought they had, it was at least 3 or 4 hours of work, at least.
And that's just that part.
That's just that part. Mm-hmm. Then somebody spoke up and said, well, we also have this. So it's it's not easy work.
Well, God bless the folks who are out there doing it. Certainly appreciate their work and you taking time to chat with us about all of this today. So many people affected by it. And like I said, that's people that we can see, people who would be taking the morning commute or evening commute. Right. But it's also the people we don't see, whoever was waiting on what was supposed to be getting to them. And like you said, how many states could be impacted by what's happened right here in this area of Oak Lawn and Chicago Ridge.
Yeah, it has these impacts ripple further than people realize, but most of us are concerned with what directly affects us, and what we're concerned about is directly how we've impacted our riders and how fast we can get them back.
Yeah. Well, we'll all be looking for updates. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, take care.
Take care.
It's about 3:15, everybody. Give us 2 minutes and we're back with our next conversation. Our next guest is already on the line. Welcome back, everyone. 3:16 right now. A lot of people said it's a bird, it's a plane. No, really, I need some more information about what is it that I'm seeing in the sky. It appears there was some type of streak that had people both here in our area all the way to parts of Indiana and Ohio asking the very same question. So we had to bring in our friend Michelle Nichols from the Adler Planetarium. She is the director of public observing to ask some questions that are on many inquiring minds. Thanks so much for coming back.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's always so fun to talk to you.
Now, have you heard the buzz about this?
Oh, yeah. Anytime there's something interesting like this in the sky, we definitely hear about it. So, yeah, there was a streak of light seen in the sky last night in our areas about 10:30 p.m. or so, and people over several states saw it. So I've seen some photos, some video. Looks like we had an object called a fireball. So it was pretty exciting to see the video. It was pretty good.
Now, from your standpoint, if we're being technical, what is a fireball?
So when you have something interacting with Earth's atmosphere, quick streak of light in the sky, something's burning up in our atmosphere. So we call that a meteor. And if something is pretty bright and a little bit bigger than your average run-of-the-mill quick streak of light in the sky called a meteor, we call that a fireball. And so just a more dramatic name for a more dramatic sight in the sky. And so this is something was burning up in our atmosphere. Something came in pretty fast and burned up, and along the way it lasted long enough that it could be seen over Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky at least. And those are the reports I've seen so far. But it could be, we could get some more reports as folks add in more information, more sightings.
Sure. Now, what was the time frame? Like when were maybe some of the first reports and some of the latter?
So I'm looking right now at the reports, and I'm seeing from 10:30 p.m. last night down to about, maybe a couple of minutes later. So it may not have actually been that long. It also depends on, did people look at their watches and get the exact time that they saw it. It was only seen by individuals for several seconds, maybe 7 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, just depends on where they were and what they saw. So over that amount of time that it took to get over those states would be relatively short, but each individual person was seeing it for maybe 5-7 seconds or so.
And we'll never know what was burning in the sky?
More than likely, that was just a little bit bigger chunk of an asteroid. And by bigger, I mean maybe this big, as opposed to like a grain of salt sized stuff. That's your average run-of-the-mill meteor, is about grain of salt sized. When you see them for a little bit longer, it might be like walnut sized, or maybe baseball sized, or a little bigger. What also apparently happened was some people heard a sound. And so that possibly was this object, which may have been a little bigger, got heated up, and it maybe exploded. And so yet to be determined if there's a chance if anything actually made it down to the ground. I haven't seen any reports yet that anything did. We don't know. But people are going to be on the lookout for any reports of anything interesting. The only problem is it's going to look like every other rock, more than likely. So
I found one. So did I.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, it looks like this rock over here. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if folks think that any chunks of it made it down.
Would there be something indicative of a particular rock that would differentiate it to say, no, this actually might be it?
Yeah, so we get a lot of people who send us photos of things that are actually like concrete and asphalt and stuff like that. But what you might see is that if it feels much heavier than a normal everyday run-of-the-mill rock, sometimes meteors or meteorites contain iron, and so that might make them a little heavier. Yes, you could try sticking a magnet to it, but once you do that, you've actually ruined some of the science related to it, so I don't actually recommend doing that. One thing you might look for is a black crust on the outside, and that is from this object. When it came through the Earth's atmosphere, friction heated it up on the outside and melted the rock or the material on the very outside crust of this. So it might look like it has thumbprints in it. So just how it heated up unevenly across its entire surface. So there's some things you can look for. There are a lot of checklists out there for things you can look for to go through and see if you think it's a meteorite, or more than likely we might call it a meteor wrong. But anyway, if anyone thinks they have found something, best bet is to document it as much as possible, do as little of it as possible, do as little to it as possible, handle it as little as possible, and get in touch with professionals at a lab to see if you might want to get something tested.
How often would these fireballs happen?
Every day.
Really?
Every day there are reports of this sort of thing. If you go on the American Meteor Society website, you can go see their fireball logs page, and if you go to the 2026 page, you can look and see there's stuff practically every day somewhere around the world. Someone is going to see something. So not necessarily every day in our country, but somewhere around the world, probably someone has seen some fireball. So it's that not everything in our solar system is tiny. Some stuff is a little bit bigger, and when it hits our atmosphere and burns up, it can make a pretty interesting show in the sky.
Wow. Now, when you talk about logs and tracking things, I'm really interested in knowing how you all verify things these days, that it's not like AI or something like that somebody's sending you.
Right. A human actually looks at all these reports, because if you get one, it's kind of hard to verify. If you get, in this case, I'm looking at 128 witness reports.
Wow.
That'd be kind of tough for lots of people across 6 states to fake. And so what they look for is things like, Is there a very specific time? Do they have a lot of detail in their report? Can you then trace them all so that you can see a clear path of where this thing was going when all these reports happened? What direction were people facing when they saw it? Because that can tell you, like, if people to the southwest were facing to the northeast and people to the northeast were facing to the southwest and they all saw it, then they know it went in between where those people were. Stuff, all sorts of stuff like that. Did they see a color? Did they hear a sound? Where were they? So all this information goes into these reports, and you try to get as much out of it. And then you can put all that together and really get a clearer picture. And the more reports there are, the better. But they actually have people who go through all these logs to see if they can start to pull out similarities with all of them. And it helps to have, there's photos and videos on this site as well. So you can take a look at those.
Wow. Okay. Now, I know outside of this, there were a lot of people also talking about some things having to do with the planets and alignment this week. Can you speak to that?
So we've got some planets visible in the sky, but it's not just this week. We've got some planets that are visible over the next several weeks or so. But right now, the easiest two to see if you go out in the early evening right now is Jupiter and Saturn. Or I should say Saturn and Jupiter. If you face more to the southwest, you'll see a relatively bright-ish dot in the sky. That's Saturn. If you face a little bit more south to the southeast and it's brighter, that's Jupiter. And so these planets appear to be in a line across the sky because our solar system is flat. And so we are going to see them in a relative line in the sky. And then when we have more than one planet visible in the sky, you can see where that line is. And so we call that the ecliptic. And so it's just a fun way to be able to pick out some planets in the sky.
The ecliptic. I'm learning something new today. I love it.
There you go.
And how long are these going to be visible like that?
Oh, for a few weeks. So we've had Jupiter and Saturn visible in the sky in the early evening for a few months now. So we're going to lose Saturn pretty soon, over the next month or so. But Jupiter is still visible more toward the southeast right now. So in the early evening. So you're going to get Jupiter for a while longer. I think until May, June,
wow.
Somewhere around there. So we have a while to see them. And the rest of them, Mars and Mercury and all that, they come and go. Their orbits zip around a little bit differently than those two. So we've got a little while before we have to before we don't see the planets. And so we tend to put stuff on our social media here at the Adler. So if you want to follow us at Adler Planet or Adler Planetarium, you might be able to see. We tell you when you can see planets in the sky. So check out our social media. Figure it out.
Have to do that. And then maybe on a final note here, what else do you all have going on at the Adler right now?
Oh, we are getting ready for spring break. Come join us for spring break. It will be all moon themed for spring break. So the week of March 23rd and the week after that, so it'll be the week of March 30th. So those 2 weeks, everything moon related. Our Imagine the Moon Planetarium show. We're going to look at the moon in the observatory. If it's clear on the Wednesday nights that week, we'll be open those Wednesday nights in the evening. Activities out on the floor. We're going to have some information in a new portion of an exhibit about the Artemis missions that will take humans back toward the moon. All sorts of stuff going on. So stay tuned. More coming in about that in the next few weeks. So check our website for more info.
Exciting times, and you are always so passionate about it all. That's why we love having you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you. Can't wait to see you next time.
Okay. 328. I just love how excited she is. And I say this frequently on the show. I love when people really are passionate about what they do, and it comes out in every conversation that we have with her. And you learn something new. Give us 2 minutes. We're going to come back. We've been from what's happening in the sky, and now we've got to go over to the Shed Aquarium and talk a little bit about what's going on with conservation efforts there. 3:30 right now, and there are many ways that you can spend your time for Valentine's. Obviously, many will be in the mood for love. We love love, right? And if you're going to be out doing wonderful things, great. But there are also people who may have some unresolved issues, let's say, with Valentine's Day. And the Shed Aquarium has come up with quite an opportunity for you to relieve some stress and settle the score. I want to bring in Evelyn Alvarez. She is a Conservation Action Coordinator at the Shed Aquarium. Thank you so much for your time.
Hi, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me today.
Okay, let's talk about this Valentine's Day proposal that you all have on the table for folks who want to take you up on the offer.
Yeah, so basically we're inviting all volunteers, anybody who's interested in just getting outdoors and cutting down some invasive trees with us to join us out in the woods and do some woodland restoration. We cut down invasive species. One of them is European buckthorn. And people will get the chance to chop it into pieces and throw it on a raging fire. And I think that kind of helps relieve some stress for people who join us out there.
How'd you all come up with this idea of a nature's rage room?
Well, this program has been going on for quite a while. And the reason it all kind of started was because we have some really critical species that actually live out in our woodlands. And we have a researcher at Shed who actually studies some of those species that live in the temporary ponds that kind of create their home there in our woodland habitats. So Shed Aquarium is basically out there trying to restore some of those ephemeral ponds, which are those temporary ponds, and remove those harmful invasive plants to be able to help amphibian species thrive and other native plant populations come back up and just like help maintain that biodiversity all around. So this program is our Action Days program. And it's been going on for, I think, a couple of years already. It's been some time. So yeah, people can come out at any time, Valentine's Day or not. But yeah, we particularly want people to come out on Valentine's Day and spread some of that love to our amphibian friends in the forest.
Tell us about some of the amphibian species that are there that we're talking about helping here.
Yeah, so we've got a few different kinds. I know our researcher here at Shed is particularly interested in lots of different frog species. I don't know them off the top of my head, but there's a lot of different frog species. She's interested in a lot of those salamanders and how many of those kind of species are spawning in those ponds and then, turning into tadpoles and completing their life cycles in the ponds at Bobman and Skokie Lagoons. So yeah, there's a ton of different biodiversity of amphibians and other plants and animals that rely on those amphibian populations in the woods.
So tell me how an Action Day works. Like if I'm coming out to volunteer, to blow off some steam or just to get, whatever off of my mind and at the same time helping the environment and helping these amphibian species. What time do I get there? How do I take part? And what does the day look like?
Yeah, so we actually have two sites that people can join us out in the woods at. So we have one site up in Glencoe. It's called Skokie Lagoons. It's kind of by the Chicago Botanical Gardens, so that people can familiarize themselves with that area. And it happens on the first Saturday of every month in the wintertime and every third Wednesday year round. And then we also have another site in LaGrange Park Woods, and that one's called Bobman Woods, and people can join us on the second Saturday in the wintertime and the third Thursday in the whole year to basically come out and we will gear you up with everything that you need. We provide you with the safety tools, the actual tools that you'll need to cut down these trees. And all you need to do is bring yourself, bring some passion, and and then we'll get you suited up and we'll teach you how to identify the invasive species, and we'll teach you all about how this is kind of helping our amphibian friends in the forest as well. So that's kind of what we teach volunteers when we get out there.
Is this an adults only event, or can the kids come along? And how do things change when you're working with youth?
Yeah, so today we were actually out in the woods as well, and we brought out a high school group, and the teachers will bring their students out on field trips. I think if you're participating in any action day, families come out, and kids as young as 12 are able to come and join us out in the woods. And we usually get a lot of older folks as well. So we get like the young people, we get old people, everybody's just as passionate as cutting down these invasive plants as we are. So it's pretty wide range of people can come join us out there.
What do you think people misunderstand about the wetlands or these invasive plants out there?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I feel like people they tend to think that the forest kind of just takes care of itself, and maybe you kind of just like let nature do its thing. And for sure, like I totally agree with that sentiment, and like that people can kind of like watch nature do its thing, but there are times when we need to lend a helping hand, because there are lots of kind of harmful species that get to our woodland sites, and they kind of crowd out those spaces, and they don't allow for like native plants, other animals to kind of pass through these woodlands and kind of make it their own home. So when invasive species come in and take over, it kind of threatens that biodiversity of our woodland habitats, and that's no good for anybody. We get less birds, we get less pollinators, we get less frogs out in the woods, and that's, if you're taking a stroll through the woods, I think you want to hear the birds, you want to see and hear some of those frog calls. I think people taking action for their woodlands and for these forest preserve sites is super important, and you'll get to learn a thing or two about nature as well.
Okay, if someone's coming out for a first time, what do they need to wear, and what things would be off limits?
Ooh, that's a good question. So we like to recommend things that you don't mind getting dirty. So bring out some hardy pants that you have, some pants that are a little bit thicker. I definitely would recommend some warm socks, especially in the wintertime if you're joining us when there's snow out on the ground like today. Definitely some boots or any like hiking shoes or sneakers that are a little bit of like a water wicking material. And I would definitely avoid bringing out anything that you don't want to get maybe some burn holes in. So if you got like a nice new jacket that you just got, I would recommend leaving that at home and bringing out your older jacket that maybe you don't mind getting a few burn holes in. So yeah, things like that. That's all you need to wear. Just your least favorite clothing, I would say.
See, Evelyn, I'm thinking Nature's Rage Room, girl, wear that jacket that he left at your house. That's what you need to put on for this.
No, that's good. You make a good point there. Yes, get those burn holes in his jacket, not yours.
Leave your cute stuff, but if he left something at your place, wear that. Great chatting with you, and I love the efforts that you all have going on. Again, this is for Valentine's Day, but how often do you all do the action days again? Because I know you said you do them year round.
So we have 4 action days every month in the winter time. So first Saturday at Skokie in the wintertime, third Wednesday year-round at Skokie, and then second Saturday at Bob Mann in the wintertime, and then the third Thursday year-round.
Okay, sounds like a fun activity, and as she said, even the kids as young as 12 can take part, so make it a family affair. It doesn't have to be about rage, but this is just a fun way of looking at it for Valentine's Day. At the very least, it'll take your mind off of things and give you some company out there. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Take care. I think it's fun. We were talking about the fact that a lot of times, like a zoo or garden sometimes will have you like name a cockroach after an ex or something like that for Valentine's. But this was a new way of looking at it, and I do think, you can get your mind off of that person, go do some good for the environment at the same time, just have a good time, maybe doing something new. It's a win-win in many ways. So it's an opportunity that you can take up again there for the Shed Aquarium's Woodland Action Days Nature's Rage Room this weekend. 3:42, give us 2 minutes and we'll be back. All right, it's about 3:45 right now. Let's take a look at how the stock market is doing today and where it closed for the day. Kind of a mixed picture there. Not the worst we have seen, definitely not the best we have seen either here. The Dow Jones slipping today after a 2-day win streak that it was on, and you see, it kind of came off of that in the green at the start of the day, but then just continued to slip from there. Now, a part of what we were seeing at the beginning of the day had to do with the jobs numbers. If you were with us earlier in the broadcast, we were talking about the surprisingly good, according to economists, the surprisingly good jobs report that came out. But one of the things that some of the economists are pointing out, because one of the one of the aspects of it that even our guest pointed out was that it's positive and negative that we're seeing in the jobs report. So one of the maybe negative aspects of it doesn't seem like there's been a sustainable advance. And that aspect of it is a part of why we're seeing some of the volatility that we did today, apparently, here coming off of that. The unemployment rate landing at 4.3% there. So we have the S&P 500 that was down less than a point. The NASDAQ composite dropping 0.16%, and then as you can see here, the Dow Jones sitting at negative 66, so down 66 points for the day, or 0.13% as it closed for the day. It seems like the Treasury has some conflicting viewpoints on this, but the shares of stocks apparently, especially when it comes to those involved in some type of build out for an AI data center or data centers, has to do with a part of maybe a bit of the blips of green that we saw here. So there's a lot going on when it comes to the stock market today in terms of the moments that gave us some positive outlook and those that sent us into the red as well. As we were hearing earlier, we're still waiting to hear more from the Federal Reserve, possibly next month, I believe our guest said, and to see whether they will keep the rates the same or whether they could possibly adjust them some. So that's kind of weighing on this as well. And obviously, with that being not until next month that they meet, maybe it signals that we could be seeing some volatility for a while to come here. So again, not the best, not the worst today, but we did end in the red. That's never where we want to be. We'll see where the day starts off tomorrow and check back on it during Chicago Live yet again. 3:47 though. Give us another couple of minutes and we'll be back. Welcome back, everyone. Less than 10 minutes to go before we, put you over to the 4 o'clock news. But before we go, we're going to have a great conversation right now with Dan Mulca, the Executive Director of the LaGrange Business Association, because we have another restaurant week that we want to prepare everyone for. It's coming up soon. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. It's the most wonderful time of the year. It's time to escape the winter blues and have some amazing food.
I would have to agree with you. I love all of the different restaurant weeks and our opportunities to get to some new areas and try some new restaurants.
Yeah, and especially LaGrange is such a dining destination. We have so many different culinary restaurants, any type of flavor you're looking for, several different nationalities represented, taste, countless tables, countless flavors. We have a little bit of something for everybody.
I love it. And you're sitting in a snazzy area right there. Tell me where you're sitting. Uh-oh, we may have lost Dan.
This is Prasinel, one of my favorite. Uh-oh,
I can hear you now.
Yet?
Your shot is frozen, but I can hear you.
Sorry about that. Well, hopefully you can see some of this great food that we have here. Everything from kind of like a grilled salmon, chicken kebab. One of the best items here at Prasinel, we have this lobster avocado. It's been on the menu since they opened several years ago. Everything's a great crowd favorite, unbelievably fresh, probably some of the freshest meals you'll get anywhere around town. And it's a definite must hit during LaGrange Restaurant Week, as well as, any other time of the year.
Okay, Dan, I need you to start over with where you are again, because that's when you were frozen, and now I feel like I need to add it to my list after seeing that lobster avocado.
So we are here in Prasinel. If you're coming out 55, it's about 20-minute drive from the city. This is going to be one of the first restaurants that you see as you hit downtown LaGrange, and it's one of the first restaurants you should hit when you come to downtown LaGrange.
Okay, all right. So now it's new to my list. Tell us about the importance of Restaurant Week for LaGrange.
And, it's small business. And this is one of the important times of the year. Everybody's still in that, it's cold, we don't really want to go out and travel. But this is an amazing reason to go do that, because you get to support entrepreneurs and support your stomach at the same time. And that's, if you're like me and food drives you, you're going to want to come visit.
For sure. And when you think of, all the things that small businesses go through, this is also a time when, the community can help each other.
And that's right. We always kind of get the word out that, we have a great community, lots of residents that support our restaurants. We always say Restaurant Week is a great time to make an extra visit and try something you've never had before. A lot of the different restaurants are coming up with new creations or special deals, or that invite to make one more stop.
Mm-hmm. So you all's Restaurant Week there in LaGrange is February 27th to March 8th. Here in Chicago, when Restaurant Week rolls around, it is hard to get a reservation. Is the time now to getting some reservations for these places in LaGrange?
Oh, yeah. And, obviously take care of Valentine's Day while you can, because my wife will yell at me if I don't say that. But, love doesn't stop there. And, take your loved ones, take your family. We have some great family restaurants, too. So, it doesn't need to be the romantic reason to come out. You can bring the whole family. And, whether you're finding pizza, whether you're finding, crispy fried Brussels sprouts, or, my favorite, there's going to be a filet mignon on one of our restaurant specials. There's some good stuff out here.
All right. I know you're sitting in one restaurant. Is it your favorite? And if not, what's your favorite LaGrange restaurant?
I would say that we're having some technical issues, and I'm kidding. I'm kidding. This is one of my haunts, and I would like to say this is probably a Tuesday favorite. I have a Wednesday favorite, a Thursday favorite, a Friday favorite, Saturday favorite, because there's a lot of great ones, and I can't choose just one. But Prasinel is truly up there on the list.
Okay. All right. Well, I see it on my list in front of me, and I've made a star there. And I do try to get to all the restaurants that I put a star to. So hopefully we'll all get. Now, if somebody hasn't been down to spend time, I've been down in LaGrange before, but if someone hasn't been there to spend time in LaGrange before, what are some other things that they should do while they're in LaGrange?
Well, we are a great little downtown with several retail. We have a theater that's over 100 years old. That's called technically over my right shoulder here. I don't know if it can get reflected there, but there's a lot of good stuff. You know, it's a little bit colder, but you know, you can stay inside, visit some of the boutique shops. You know, everything from artisan olive oil, you know, clothing. We have a amazing home lighting store across the street here from Prassino, and you know, there's a little bit of everything for everyone as well.
All right. Well, we'll start making our plans now. Thank you so much, Dan. Great speaking with you.
You as well will definitely save you some of this.
Please do. I don't know. I'll get a fresh plate when I get to Prassino, when I get out to LaGrange. Everybody, again, the LaGrange Restaurant Week is February 27th to March 8th. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be back to close things out. All right, thanks so much, everybody, for being here for another day of Chicago Live. We'll be right back here online and hope you'll be joining us from 1 to 4 p.m. tomorrow. First at 4 is next.
Live from Chicago, this is Fox 32 News at 4.
Here we go. A train derailed in Chicago Ridge. We're tracking when Metra service comes back and what caused it.
The FBI is doing an extensive road search in